Hello, my beauties. How are you doing out there in the world? Wherever you are listening from today, I want to thank you for joining us for this episode of A Crystal Clear Mind. And today I have the blessing of being joined by the fabulous Heather Lawson. Heather is a midlife coach who created The Wild Becoming. I love this name so much, but I'm going to hand over to Heather because the only person that can describe her is her. So Heather, take it away. Tell us all about yourself.
Ah, thank you. Where to start? Okay. I think the best place to start, weirdly enough, is the beginning. So, if I cast back, I was in a moment in my life when my second marriage was ending. A business that my then husband and I poured ourselves into had failed. And then I had to have an operation for fibroids, which then dumped me into surgical menopause.
Yeah,
Something
no good.
I wasn't expecting. And
Mm.
actually, at that time, we're talking 2013 now. So I'd like to think that maybe things have moved on and there is a little bit more knowledge that will be passed on to women about what's happening to their bodies.
Yeah.
But so at age 42, I was dumped into surgical menopause, which actually wasn't so bad, except my peer group around me were not going through what I was going through.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it felt super isolating. My body felt very foreign to me.
Yeah.
And it was just really hard to kind of have conversations with people about, what was going on in my body, and have conversations that were, kind of relatable. I felt very alone, but I had trained as a personal trainer. I'd had a life in the city, and I decided that I wanted to train as a personal trainer to do something more aligned to I loved being active. I'm a very kind of outdoorsy person. So alongside my career in corporate, I became a personal trainer. And when I was dumped into the menopause, I decided to train as a menopause coach. And what's happened is that has kind of all sort of collided in a very, very beautiful way. And alongside all of this, nature has been my friend. And the wild becoming has been a long time coming, but it's a way of me coaching midlife women and making them aware that they're not broken. They don't necessarily need fixing in the way that they think that they need fixing. And that if we very simply kind of follow what nature tells us and how nature is, we can live a kind of calmer, more centered life and have a bit of joy.
Which I don't think anybody would say no to any of that, actually.
No.
Like midlife or not, that's all we're kind of looking for at the moment, isn't it? Just that kind of like bonus joy that we feel like we're lacking in at the moment. But I love that connection to nature that you're speaking about. And it's something I notice a lot with women like us in this kind of sector, dealing with this kind of thing, you know. But I'm noticing a lot of people are realizing they're very out of touch with the basics of nature,
Yeah.
and they're starting to realize a bit of grounding, just walking amongst it, connecting with it maybe even further, or finding groups like this where you can be in that community and just make that deeper connection really beneficial. And I love that. And it's men and it's women and it's all ages and so on. But I am finding definitively that midlife point, it's it's like we're all waking up a little bit, isn't it? We're waking up
Yeah.
to there's got to be more than this.
Yes. And I think that there's got to be more than this is also measured with there doesn't need to be as much. We were just
Yes.
having a conversation about New Year's resolutions. And I was talking about, a couple of Mondays ago, I opened up my mobile phone and it was like, new you. What resolutions are you doing? You need this supplement. Why aren't you doing this? Join my gym, do Pilates, don't do Pilates, lift weights. And we're kind of given more all the time. But actually, if we zoom out and you look at nature, nature just follows seasons. It's not necessarily trying to do more. Um, you know, we're in the time of winter at the moment, and we know that spring is coming, and maybe spring 2026 is going to look very different to spring 2025.
Definitely.
We know
Yeah.
it's coming, but and maybe because of the grey nights, we're wishing for it a little bit more. But nature isn't pushing. And I think, the January noise on social media, and especially midlife women, actually, it seems that if you put an M on things or put menopause before pajamas, or, now there are, heat regulating sheets for menopausal women. It's like we're kind of being bombarded, and I just feel stepping out into nature, takes away all of that noise, and it just allows you to actually just be very, very present.
Yeah. It does, and we talked about this with December as well, didn't we? Just this high level of bombardment and consumerism, and you need more, you wanna buy more, you wanna do more, see people, be more social. You kinda go, "Whoa, hold on a sec." I love wintering. I absolutely adore wintering, and anyone that listens to the podcast knows I've done actual whole episodes on the wonder of winter, and I've done meditations on it and everything else, and I love the concept that actually we're not built for this. And I think it was one of the best things I ever learned. Stop pushing yourself so hard. Easier said than done when you've got things to do, but get your bits done and then take care of you, because we are not built for this at all, are we? Our bodies are so like everything we see out there nature wise. As you said, it's seasonal. Right now, our bodies are in the season where we shouldn't be pushing this hard. It's no
No,
wonder we're rejecting it. No wonder we feel so discombobulated inside, like everything's kind of misaligned and really jamming against each other, because like we're not meant for this at
no.
all.
I think we now have a high level of noise, which is always high
Yeah.
energy. And actually, if you think about winter, the leaves have dropped. The trees and the plants are pouring their energy back into their roots so
Yeah.
that they can go again next year. Um, the plants and everything don't necessarily need the light. We've got, shorter windows of sunshine when we get it. So the whole thing is that this time should be restorative. This time should be restful. And I think the worst thing that midlife women do is actually they don't give themselves permission. I think they wait for permission for other people. So rather than thinking what I really need, not what I want, but what my body is telling me I really need right now, is to sit on the sofa with a cup of tea and a book and have half an hour out. But instead, we're busying ourselves with doing the ironing and kind of working through that to-do list and almost waiting for someone to say, shouldn't you rest for a bit? Rather than actually just taking that ownership and that permission and saying, I'm allowed to do this. Nature does it. And we're part of this, we're part of this whole ecosystem. But I just think one of the things that I probably teach more than anything else is permission, that you're allowed to have the feelings that you've got. You're allowed to do what you want to do, and you're allowed to give yourself permission to do what you want to do rather than waiting for someone to say it's okay.
And it's kind of like a double-edged sword as well, like it's a curse. So no one's going to give you that permission. Some people might suggest it to you. Like you might have someone, a friend or a family member, that say, don't you think you should kind of take it a bit easy? But at that point, you're still kind of wrapped up in trying to, like you said, the to-do list, hit the ticks and get everything done. Maybe you're trying to prove that you're capable, that you don't need that rest. And the stronger you are, the less people carry on suggesting this to you. So eventually, no one's telling you to do it. No one's telling you to slow down, rest, take time. Would you like to sit down and do nothing for a little bit? Why don't you not do that and go and sit? No one's going to say it. So you
No,
have to be the one that gives it to yourself,
exactly.
especially if you are one of those strong people that just carries everything on your shoulders. Because the stronger you are, the less anybody will help.
I
So,
know.
you do have to be the one to give yourself that permission. And I love that. If you can teach people how to give that permission to themselves, I mean, that's just fabulous. I mean, that's wonderful, isn't it? Yeah,
It's hard. It's
it
really, really
is.
hard because you've
Yeah.
kind of tapped into a little how I felt because I was in corporate life for a very long time in the city. And slowly, without realizing it, you become conditioned. You're the person that people rely on. You're the problem
Mm.
solver. We were just talking about IT. I'm not an IT specialist, but I'm a problem solver. So someone knew that if there was an issue, I could probably find a way of kind of fixing things. So you end up with kind of all these labels that you haven't necessarily kind of given yourself, um, through kind of layers of conditioning in corporate life. Capable, strong, the person that can be relied on. And I think the thing about midlife, and the hardest thing, is that midlife kind of breaks that all open.
It does. Like,
Uh,
it really does, doesn't it?
it does, because midlife doesn't turn up on one day. Midlife is something that kind of slowly happens to you. And then you get to the point where you realize midlife has happened to me. But that's been a kind of accrual of things. And what I find with these women is that suddenly, their children may well have gone to university. Um, the menopause may well have hit them kind of really hard. Maybe that brain fog's come in really badly. Maybe they've had really bad sleep disruption. Um, Maybe that, just that self-esteem of how they feel, that
Mm.
midlife piece can kind of change that. You get your little fine lines, you get your grey hair, you get that little kind of podgy bit around your belly, and you're harking back to when you were 30, but you can't go back there. And then you've suddenly got a different identity. And I think those that kind of move out of corporate life and those women who find themselves in midlife suddenly are kind of trying to find a new identity. And that is why that permission piece is so important, because how can you become who you want to be if you don't give yourself permission to be able to do it?
Absolutely. And I know it sounds and it sort of seems like sometimes we are looking for a new identity. And I kind of like to remind people you're not. You're actually trying to come back to you,
Yeah,
because your identity is great. You just have so lost yourself amongst everything along the way, haven't you? As you said, labels you didn't ask for. Some labels you put there yourself, perhaps, especially older versions. I know my moment right now, I'm trying to shed labels that I gave myself. That's strong. That's strong. I'm so strong. I can do everything. I can take on everything. And right now, you just want to say, "Actually, can I just? I don't want to be that person anymore. Like I can, and when I need to, I can use it. But right now, I don't fancy being labeled as the strong one that can bear everything. I'd like to take that label off. I put it there, but I don't want it anymore. And I think it's quite hard for people to realize you're not looking to be someone new. You're looking to be you, the whole of you in its most raw, vulnerable, perfect, imperfect state, right? And
exactly.
that's, I think, like midlife just wallops you with this concept so hard, but in the most beautiful way as well. It's just so fascinating.
I think, when I said that midlife kind of doesn't happen in one day, I think what happens is that those labels and the load that midlife women have been carrying, I'm going to generalize here, but generally women have that caring duty. So
Yeah.
that might be for kids, I'm not saying that dads don't go and pick up kids from school and what have you, but generally that caring duty um comes from the nurturing hormones that we naturally have during kind of our reproductive years. So looking after everyone, pouring into everybody else, possibly at a time when you're then, let's say, gaining aging parents who then need a little bit more support.
Yeah.
Maybe while spinning the plate of still trying to hold on to a career, perhaps because menopause has kind of shifted things and you're not that person and you're not that identity or the strong one that you used to be at work. Everyone probably thinks you are, but inside you're feeling very different. You're still you, but you're feeling a different kind of you. And I think what happens is midlife women suddenly get to the point when they realize the load that they're carrying. And it's a lot. It is an awful lot to carry. And until someone points that out, that you're a mum, you're a daughter, you're a work colleague, you're a sister, you're the one who holds everything together, and then get into the minute detail. You're the person who packs the dishwasher. You're the
Yeah.
person who does the shopping. You're the taxi driver for the family. You're the person that, does the ironing. You're the person that everyone calls when they've got a real issue. It's no wonder we're at midlife going, holy grief.
Yeah. And it's the silly things as well, as again, generalization here, because I do have male listeners. So we're not trying to like completely oust men, because there are some that obviously are complete caregivers, they're stay at home dads. But generally speaking, right now, women tend to be, we're the ones that know all the blood groups in the family. We are your emergency contact. We're the ones that all your children's friends come running to when they need something or want something and their mum's not around. You are the load for so many people in so many minute ways that when you look at it, you kind of go, holy crap, that's a lot, like a lot, a lot. You do the ironing, that you're doing the washing up or whatever, but it's all the little things that you kind of go, I don't know if anyone else has this feeling like, oh my God, what if something happened to me?
Mm,
What if, like, something's wrong with me and you haven't got what's in here that I'm holding on to,
yeah.
or that's here that I'm holding on to for you? And you
Yeah.
kinda go, "Oh, shit, but what would you do?"
I know, but then that's another load to carry. Do you know what I mean?
Completely.
That's
Yeah.
something even heavier of like, if I wasn't here, then actually what happens to kind of, my inner circle and my friends and my family? What happens to kind of all that knowledge? Um, I've got an exercise that I do with women um, that I coach, and actually I do it in groups and I do it singularly as well. And it's a really interesting exercise to do, and it's called What's on Your Plate. And I give women a paper plate and a pen. And I ask them to write what's on their plate at this moment in time. And I always see hesitancy. I always see a pen. And then I give gentle nudges. Like, for example, are you the one that always loads the dishwasher? And then you can see cogs going, and then suddenly you see this whole load come out.
Yeah, can't I?
Literally, you're like, yeah, I
Yeah.
am the aunt that looks after the niece, and I am the person that, looks after the neighbour next door. And I am the person at work that everyone comes to with the PowerPoint issues and all that type of thing. And suddenly you see this plate literally full. And then I see these women kind of congratulating themselves. It's like, oh, I have a lot, don't I? And then I give them another plate. And I'm like, okay, let's just put this plate, the full plate, to one side, that if it was covered in food, probably would have noodles hanging over the side. Here's a blank plate. Now I want you to be in a very different place, and I want you to tell me what you would like to have on your plate.
Yeah, nice. Very nice exercise that. Hard though,
Do you know what happens? Nobody writes anything for about 2 minutes.
'cause they just don't know.
They don't know, or again, they don't want to give themselves permission to actually write. There are themes that come up, and generally, I would love space.
Yeah.
I would love
Freedom.
time.
Yeah.
I would love. They're never. When I see people not writing, I generally give them a nudge, and I'm like, if you want a toy boy on a yacht in the Mediterranean, then write it on the damn plate. And then I'm giving them permission, like, this is your chance to kind of dream and actually think about what you want your life to be like. But the common themes are never big materialistic things. They generally are time for themselves, space and quiet for themselves, um, to have time to have a bit of inward focus on themselves. It's a very it is a difficult exercise for these women to do because they don't want to name how they want to live their life.
I don't think I would know what to write. If you gave me that exercise, I could fill the other plate probably quite easy with a bit of guidance. As you said, like the little nudges to kind of help you get that thought out. But I think I'd be stuck if you gave me a plate and just said to me, and to an extent, I feel like I'm quite aware of what I need. But I think if someone sort of said to me, right, write it down, all of a sudden you kind of go, oh, hold on a sec. I'm not sure really. We're terrible for um almost not thinking about what it is that we require.
Yeah. We're so focused on everyone else
Yeah.
that we don't pour into ourselves, which
Yeah.
comes back to this kind of wintering season when this is the perfect time to actually sit with a blank piece of paper. And what is so bad about, you know, trying to carve out some time for yourself, even if it is just to sit with a blank piece of paper and think, small steps. How would I like my Tuesday to be next week? What is my Tuesday like this week? What How would I actually like my Tuesday to be next week? If I was to wake up tomorrow, what's one small thing that I could change to go towards that big goal of, and it could be very, very, I'm going to go back to the dishwasher. But what generally happens is that the mum loads the dishwasher and then the children grow up and they're teenagers and they're quite capable of putting their bowls in the dishwasher. Now, it might not be the way that you do it, but you
It's
gaining
there.
that, it's there and it's going to get washed. That's what the machine does.
Yeah, yeah.
So that 10 minutes could just be 10 minutes for you to do whatever you want to do.
It is, and it's a hard one to figure out, but I love sort of what you're saying about small steps. It's small steps back to yourself, back to your current identity. That is still you under there. And it might not be like we were talking about earlier, weren't we, about New Year's Eve and what it looks like now compared to many years ago. Maybe we're not those people anymore where we're up in the club until 3 o'clock in the morning. Maybe we do prefer to be sat with a cup of tea, but that's just an evolution of our identity. It hasn't changed. We're not different. We are still the same person with the same values, principles, and everything underneath. But it is about taking those small, tiny steps. What would bring you back to you?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think this is a fabulous season for exactly that, because you're right. When we come into spring, we kind of need to spring forward. We're coming into bloom. We're rising with our ideas and our thoughts and our plans or whatever it is we want to do. As that warmer weather starts to, maybe not in England, but as the warmer weather kind of gets there a bit, but definitely as the sunlight starts to come and the daylight's getting longer. and then summer, we're here, we're big, we're bold, and we're fully grown, and we are doing everything that we want to do before we start coming back in again. It's a really excellent time of year, this, for reflection.
Yeah. And again, it's like that hankering down.
Yeah.
Winter is that time for nature outside of where we are in our homes at the moment. Where I am, it's a little bit soggy, but it's hunkering down. All the stuff is happening in the soil. There's nothing big and brash and bold
No,
kind.
it's all kind of beneath.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all happening inside. The nature is kind of getting ready for that spring season. It's putting the energy back in. It's restorative energy rather than that big, brash kind of, you know, summer explosion of roses and what have you. It's got a very different feel. And I think the reason why I called my coaching business The Wild Becoming is because I think we've lost that essence of A, connection with nature, and
Mm.
B, that essence of that wildness within ourselves. We've become so consumable by everything: social media, the
Mm.
food we eat, the food we should eat, you know, kind of new tech inventions, all that type of thing. But actually, at the end of the day, we're on this planet, and the one thing that is a constant is the change of the seasons. Change is only our kind of ever constant, but it always shows up in a different way. And I just think we're in a different season of our life in
Yeah.
midlife, and we need to show up in a different way.
Yeah, and I literally had a wonderful series of information on this that I love seasons in general. So you've got all of them going on at this point in our life right now, because we have got our feminine cycle.
Yeah.
Whether you do or don't have it, it's still there, isn't it? We still feel up and down, and we've got our ebbs and flows and everything to go with it. So we've got our natural feminine cycle. We have then got our age cycle within the seasons cycle of the world. And you just look at all of these cycles that are going on, and they all flow together. You've just got to find the wave, haven't you? You sort of have to map it out for yourself where you're fitting in.
Yeah.
And I love working with the moon for that, with myself, and then the seasons, and then into my age and the lunar phases as well. And I find that combo just makes you realize that we are very much fitting into that. Like, it's almost as if it was done divinely, that, all these things would, work together so beautifully. It's crazy, right?
But I think we've
Very
become
much.
a generation of like pushing through, and
Uh-huh.
almost pushing through is rewarded. It's like, you're the strong one. Oh, she's going to get through it. She's just going to kind of get through it all. When in fact, I was having a conversation with someone, and they live near some flooded farmland. So, river has breached its banks, and their fields are covered in water, and they can't do anything but wait
Yeah.
for nature to kind of take its course.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can't they can't pump the water away, because it's just going to go back into the river and maybe make the situation worse. Um, so that ebb and flow that, sometimes I think we try and push too much. We try and push through things when in fact we probably should just sit with things.
And we can't help but control. As human beings, we can't help but want to control the situation when it's not working in our favor. Even when it is working in our favor, we're still aiming to control it, when sometimes you just got to let it go. As you said, you just got to wait and let nature do what it does best. And you'll know when it's time for you to jump back in and be part of that situation. But right now, those people really don't have a choice. They really are Just having to stand back and let it
Yeah,
happen.
and just wait.
Yeah,
And one of the things that I think is very powerful in the work that I do is that I do kind of somatic work, and I talk a lot about the fact that we are emotional beings, and we've been given a whole load of emotions, and we are meant to feel all of them.
yeah,
But I think that there is this element of, for example, if you're feeling sad, that we've got so many different ways of kind of overriding that feeling, and we don't sit with that sadness and sitting with the feelings that we have in the same way. It sounds a bit weird that those fields are sitting being sodden, um, is ebb and flow of life. But I think we're just in a weird cycle where, as I said, being strong and pushing through and overriding things rather than actually being present. There's nothing wrong at midlife with feeling sad about the fact that you're not your 30-year-old self anymore, and that you don't have your 30-year-old body, and maybe your joints are a little bit more creaky. There's nothing wrong with feeling that sadness. You know, honor that sadness. That isn't the person that you are right now, and you are allowed. And again, it goes back to that word, which is probably going to be a common theme. It's that permission to be able to feel sad.
yeah,
And
yeah. And you know what you were saying about the field? I mean, it's turned into like a most beautiful analogy, hasn't it? But the field, if you were to pump the water back in, as you said, you're just putting it back into the river, and that could then break the banks again. But worse, this time, I find that your emotions, I've learned more to the point, that your emotions are like that too. If you're going to ignore and not be able to sit in an uncomfortable emotion like sadness or disappointment or frustration, if you can't sit with it and work with it, you're just pumping it back into the river for it to break even worse, you
yeah,
know? And it does, it comes back twofold this time. It'll be threefold next time. You can't keep pushing it away as much as the world, I find, is telling us to just, we're still very stiff upper lip, aren't we? Bottle it down,
or-
shut
yeah,
it down, lock it down, don't let people see how you feel. Say, I'm fine. And it's like, well, you don't go up to someone and say, "No, I'm absolute shit." But, you don't also have to pretend with people all the
no,
time that, "I'm A-okay." Are you really? It's, you do have to sit with those emotions. It's not easy to do, is it really? To
no,
navigate through that amount, especially when you've got your hormones involved in it, because then it's kind of taking you on a very different ride. But, it does help to deal with it now, instead of trying to control that situation and find out later it's gonna come back and bite you in your ass later.
yes. But that honesty has ripples.
Mm.
If you say to, a friend, actually, I'm having a bad day today, probably what you don't realize is that you're allowing that friend to have a bad day.
You've given them permission to respond. Yeah,
Yeah.
completely.
Because you're not saying, "Oh, I'm fine. Actually, yeah, I'm having a bit of a bad day today. I'm not feeling my best." But I think you're right. And British people, s you
We're
know,
terrible for it.
we're like, "Oh, I'm not allowed to feel that," or, it's that whole swan analogy, isn't it? Everything's all fine up here, but underneath, the little legs are going, I can't be dealing with this. I've got too much going on." But
Yeah.
up here, it's like, "Oh, it's all lovely."
And the thing it was, I don't know if you've noticed it recently, out there in the world, on the road, in the streets, in the shops and so on, you're feeling more of the paddling is rising up. We may say, "I'm fine, I'm okay," but it's rising, it's bubbling. There's only so much people can do under the surface. So instead of dealing with all of that or pushing it all down, we're somewhere in like a weird mid ground where it's rising up. So it's actually coming out as a typical anger. kind of emotion because that's our go-to, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, it's like by default. If you don't know what you're feeling angry. And, you know, it's kind of coming up as anger and a bad temperament and, a, you know, bit of road rage or, you know, barging in someone, you know, and you're noticing it more and more in people. And I just walk around all day just wanting to hug people because you just look and think all you need is a hug to just, again, as you said, that
Yeah.
permission to just kind of let it go. Just
Yeah.
like to drop the act, let it go and just feel into it. It's so difficult for people. It really is.
But I also feel that we're in such a disassociated world.
Yeah.
In a weird way, I think we've got a bit of collective of people craving connection, proper connection. Um, I think maybe COVID and how we've lived our lives after
Since
that,
then. Yeah.
saying any of that is wrong. I think the whole, especially the way that we live our lives, um, flexible working, being able to work from home, I think is an amazing thing. If in some ways, I think it's the best thing that kind of came out of COVID.
It's
But I,
strange, isn't it? Because again, it's double-sided. It really was. It's an amazing thing. I think it's helped a lot of people, but it has isolated.
yeah, but I think also, like, I'm 56, and I think I'm of that generation of women whereby we were told we could have it all. And
Yeah.
actually, my dad was born in 41. Um, I was first born. He wanted his daughter to be able to grow up and have all the things that he didn't have. He wanted me to be really independent. He wanted me to be educated. And I'm very thankful that, that was his kind of line. But then I turn up at work and it's like, well, you can have an amazing career in the city. And with that goes the trappings of a nice house and holidays and everything. And that's all great. I haven't had children, but on top of that, there is, the other layer of then having a family and all those caring duties and then, trying to spin all of those plates. So I think we're in a generation where maybe COVID and being able to work from home has broken how broken some women were feeling.
Yeah.
Um, with that whole, I have to turn up to work. Um, I saw on LinkedIn there was a post about I used to be the type of manager that castigated people for being, at work at 9:05. Not knowing that possibly some of those people would be working until 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
But I think there's a little bit of not a little bit, I think there is an uprising actually. In my generation of women were saying, well, you've told us that we can have it all, but actually I'm making the choice not to have it.
Exactly that. I don't want it all. I want what I want, whatever that may be. It looks different for every person, obviously, but yeah, I want what I want. I don't feel like I need to have it all. And I think we're very much coming round to that. Again, having it all, it's that it's like a curse, isn't it? Yeah, okay, you can, but what it's going to do is it's going to distract you from being who you are.
You are.
You're going to lose yourself trying to be this person that has it all. And you can do it. But do you want to, if someone said that to you at the beginning, right back, you know, you're like 18 years old and someone said to you, you can have all of this, but it costs you that. I feel that even at 18, we might have kind of gone, that sounds a little bit expensive. You know, like I don't want to lose myself. I don't want to become someone that's bordering on anxious or depressed or fed up or hates their life. But actually, it's not their life really. It's just circumstantial, you know, or whatever it is that people are feeling. I think I might have looked and kind of gone, don't think I fancy that, thank you. You know, but yeah, nobody tells you what it costs because I don't think they knew. I think you're right. They just wanted us to have everything possible. The world is your oyster kind of syndrome, isn't it? You know?
Exactly. And then I think there now is a group of women who actually want something different. Um, but there is that kind of fear factor of, I've been in a corporate world, or I've been in this little bubble, and I don't know, or I don't have the tools to be able to go out, and I know who I want to become, but I don't know how to get there.
Yeah,
And what I would say is that becoming also isn't a destination. It's supposed to be a journey that's meant to be joyous. You know, there are probably going to be some tough times. You were talking about shedding identities. You know, we pick them up along the way, and actually, all those hats don't need to be worn. Or maybe those hats need to be worn, but then your inner circle needs to know at what cost to you do you wear that identity or your hat? And that comes back to like stuffing everything down. Um,
very much. Very much. And I think one of the favorite things I learned recently is the phrase that not everything comes to us forever. That can be people, that can be relationships, it could be jobs, it could be anything. For a reason, for a season, or for a lifetime. And I tell you what, when you like hear that and you really sit with that, you kind of look at things very differently. You kind of go, oh, I can look at the hats, I can look at all the roles, I can maybe even pop it on just for a moment, change
yeah,
my mind. Maybe I want to put it on for a week, but I don't want it forever. And you can be those things. I mean, people often uh they kind of giggle at me. I'm like everything. I'm a caterer, I'm a singer, I'm a podcaster, I'm a Reiki healer, I'm a this, I'm a that, I do this, I do that. That's me loving variety of life. I love that variety. I kind of crave that variety, that flow, that creativity that comes from everything that I do. I love it. But it comes with burnout as well. When you're doing too much, even if you love it, you
yeah,
still burn out. And I think what I have learned now, it has taken so long, but it's most likely last year that I worked it out. That again, if we use your hat analogy, it's I may want to pick that hat up, so maybe I want to be in my band, but I can't do it this week. I think I'm just going to pop it down for a second, and I'll come back to it next week when I can. 2 years ago, I would have been trying to put them all on top of each other while still smiling and pretending that I love putting more hats on top of hats. Does that make sense? Like
yeah,
you
one
do
hundred
have to
percent.
learn that, yeah, you don't have to have them all at
And
once.
also,
You
you're
don't have
not
to be everything.
no, and you're not letting anyone down by putting that hat down, because in that
Not
moment
at all.
you don't have the energy to be able to give what you really want to give.
And your energy, it's a wonderful, expensive thing, and it should be expensive. It should be expensive to give it out, and it should only go to those that it's worth giving it to. Things, jobs, people,
Yeah.
everything. It should be deserving of that energy. And I think again, something we've got to learn is where do we want to be spending that? It's really important for us as women, as midlife women, to work out where that energy needs to be spent. And it's okay if we're still spending it in places we're not happy about, because you do still have to you've got to clean the toilet.
You've got to do the
We're still got to
things.
make money. All of these things, you've got bills to pay. There's still stuff you have to do. And you can be mad about that. And our energy has to go there. But it's about controlling the rest of that. Where do we want to put that energy into that is nice or is worth it or we feel good for it? Or my favorite one that you've mentioned is where's the joy?
Yeah,
Bring in
100%.
the joy.
I don't know anyone who doesn't go out in nature and comes back restored. Whether or not,
Absolutely.
whether or not you go for a 5-minute walk around the block in your lunch hour, and that nature is fresh air, you're not stuck in your house, or you go for a sea dip, or you just go for a walk, or whatever it might be. That joy comes when you can restore that energy balance.
Yeah.
That's when it comes. Um, and the other thing about being outside is that you can't do anything but be present. Your brain may well be exploding with 42 different kind of to-do lists. And then suddenly you're walking through a wood and your ears hear a woodpecker and you're like, oh my God. And then, that whole kind of cauldron that was bubbling up in your head, you're very, very present when you're in nature. And it's a very, very powerful tool. And I think the way that we live our life just switches it off.
I couldn't agree more. I find that there's very few things that get my head to go quiet, which I think is quite normal, isn't it? Even if you're really good at meditation and so on, it doesn't mean your brain's gone silent.
No.
So I don't mind it being loud. It's very noisy in there, but um, yoga switches my mind off completely. It's almost like my brain is focusing too hard on the muscles, what I'm using to stay balanced, and it can't think of other things. It's too busy.
Yeah.
And nature, it's not focusing on anything else necessarily particular, but you're right. All those little things that are going on, the little rustle of a leaf. We've got like a river walk that runs through our whole town. So whenever we go on nature walks, we are surrounded by a river that follows us, or we follow the river. And yeah, all you can hear is the water, and you can't help but be distracted. You're absolutely right. It's probably the only time that my mind is completely quiet-ish, or my favorite one, it goes into troubleshooting mode. You know that thing that you can't work out?
Yeah.
Give me a second, I'll work on it, and it can work it out, the answers start to come.
Yeah. If I'm trying to write content or I write a lot, that's kind of my way of sort of processing things. And I, I can go for a walk and probably within about 5 minutes, my mobile phone is out because I've given myself space,
Yeah.
creative space. And my brain, where I was here in the office, was like, oh God. Suddenly, I've got big sky, I've got birds flying over. Do you know what I mean? You literally have given yourself space to be creative.
Mm.
Uh, it's my go-to all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an earth sign anyway, so nature's very much in, it's kind of all there embodied in me. But I do very much connect to nature, and I feel very lost when I'm not able to get out as well. I don't mind going out if it's rainy. Like I don't mind a rainy walk. Don't mind a muddy one either, to be honest, as long as I'm kitted out for it and it's not a surprise. I love it. I absolutely love it because I feel that I do. I come back quite cleansed from it. That connection to nature, but also the connection to the elements, whether it's windy,
Mm.
rainy, beautiful sun, winter sun. I love winter sun through the trees. It's probably one of my most favorite feelings in the whole world is when that sun just comes straight through all the bare branches. It's beautiful. Um, and I think that it's like the epitome of grounding. It really is. It just brings us back to who we are. It just gives us pause.
Yeah. And I think you've touched on something there in that I think people think going out in nature is probably a spring, summer, autumn thing. I love going out in winter. The hedgerows haven't got any leaves. You can see through to places that you can't see
Yes.
through in the summertime. I was out with a friend on a walk last weekend and we were like, how have we never seen this house? Because
Babe, we did that too. Yeah.
we'd never been looking at this hedgerow when it's not doing its thing in spring or summer. It was like, we didn't even know that house was there. And we
Yeah.
probably do this walk at least once, I don't know, once a month. Um,
Yeah, we did exactly the same and literally found a manor, like a huge manor property that you kind of go, how did we not ever notice that there was basically like half a castle behind this hedgerow? I mean, don't get me wrong, they're not like little hedgerows, they're very tall, but still you kind of go, holy hell, that's amazing. And it's all because it's just very, very bare, it's showing everything.
yeah. But I use the hedgerow analogy a lot because we walk on by it all the time and we possibly don't really give it the reverence that maybe we should, because that hedgerow is kind of containing a field, maybe. It's kind of buffeting against winds. It's creating a bit of a windbreak. It's providing homes for I don't know how many, um, you know, birds, voles, little mammals, all that type of thing. But we just walk on by and we don't actually stop to notice. So if anyone listening to this podcast has got a hedgerow by them, I would ask them to go and stop and stare at a hedgerow and just see what is going on, because it's a little hive of energy and activity, but we're so blasé about them.
It's just such a good point. You know what? So, yeah, realizing that I can see through them at this time of year is quite a new concept that I've noticed. But it never occurred to me about how much life goes on inside there. Of course it does. I mean, everything is the home for something, isn't it? You know,
Yeah.
never occurred to me that there would be actual life using it and
Yeah.
utilizing it. Well, I need to go find a hedgerow now.
Yeah.
Let's go for a walk.
Yeah, I use kind of nature analogies so much in my work, because it's there and it is the constant. We've talked about it all, kind of ebb and flow. I've talked about the buffeting wind. We get kind of buffeted in our life all the time by
Yeah.
invisible forces, um, which sometimes are those invisible forces in our head telling us we should. Why didn't I? Why am I not the best version of myself? What should I be doing? It's all invisible. It's not real. So yeah, I like to use nature analogies because they're so visible um in my work. It just allows people to kind of register kind of what I'm saying.
No, I mean, I think probably on the podcast we're a great fan of analogies. We do like a good analogy. But yeah, no, they're just, I don't know, everything you're saying speaks to me on such a base level. It's like it couldn't make more sense if it tried. And I'm so sure that this will resonate with a lot of people out there as well, because we are feeling that need to reconnect, to find that reconnection, aren't we? It's nice to get a bit of a digital detox and get outside a little bit, even if you're not living in the most lush green area. It's still nice to get outside and just be around all of that. So we are seeing, you used the word earlier, we are seeing quite the uprising in that. Because I mean, I remember, years ago, people just say it. To me, it never bothered because I love being in nature. But just go out for a walk. That's the solution. Just go out for a walk. And you can hear people kind of like, well, I don't like walking. I don't like fields and I don't like nature. I'm not really keen on it. But it's more than that. It's almost like the old information, the old advice from older generations, but it's just finer tuned now. They
Yeah.
just used to say, go for a walk, clear your head. We now know why it clears our
Yes.
heads. What connection that brings back to ourselves to help us in that process. And I love it. Absolutely adore this uprising in particular. I think it's so necessary to just fill the world with a little bit more joy and love and light and definitely nature.
And definitely nature. Yes,
And definitely that.
100%.
Yeah. Oh, do you know what, my darling? It's been absolutely beautiful having you on today. And for anybody that would love to work with Heather or look into Heather, because I mean, she's got fabulous information. I will put all of her details into the bio as normal, so you can reach out as and when you see fit. But until then, I would love to say thank you so much, Heather, for coming on. Honestly, your whole ethos and wisdom has been absolutely wonderful today. Really, really loved it, and I think it will resonate with a lot of people.
Oh, thank you. No, just a big thank you for having me here and just allowing me to share a few thoughts. And if they can help one person, then we've done a wonderful thing.
Absolutely, and don't forget, you've been invited. Go find a hedgerow and have a look. Take a moment and have a look. And until next time, take care of yourselves.